I actually bred and hybridized poison dart frogs. And each one of those could kill about 50 people. And I think I was the only person at the time in the world to actually hybridize these two species.
Right, hello. Welcome back to another episode of the podcast Chatzzz. And we've got a very, very special guest today. Billy, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you. Good shoot today?
Good.
Did you have a good shoot today?
It was good.
Fair enough.
Sorry.
So what I'm going to do is get you to introduce yourself to the viewers and the listeners,
Cool.
like as if you were introducing yourself for the first time, or somebody like an Uber driver asked you who you are, what you do.
Okay.
Go for it.
So go for it. So my name is Billy. It's not my real name, but I've been called Billy for a very long time now. I think it was when I was a submarine in the Navy. You got a choice of nicknames, and it was the nicest out of the bunch. So yeah, I kind of got stuck with that one. And most people of the last 30 odd years have known me as Billy. I've spent a lot of time in the corporate world after the Navy, looking after countries, 30 odd countries around the world. It's up to sort of hundreds of people. And then about 5-6 years ago, I decided to pull it back and do my own thing. So I have this watch business and a little other business that goes alongside it. Right. So it's stressful because you've got your own worries, but also you run your own tempo now.
Yeah, your own freedom. So what were the other nickname options in on?
I couldn't march, which was quite good. So I ended up with Submarines. There's no space. So some people call me Skippy. And I can't remember. There was one. A lot of men get called girls' names because it's just, so if your name's Harland, you get called Judy, after Judy Garland and stuff. So I can't remember that one. So when Billy, it's because I never used to get hangovers. I still don't really, but they used to call me Billy the Fish, and so Billy kind of stuck.
Oh, nice.
So I quite liked it. So,
And then I prepared you 2 minutes before the podcast. 3 facts about yourself. What have you got?
So 3 facts. I think I'd already mentioned I was in the Navy, so that's a little bit boring. Yeah. I grew up in Southeast Asia, particularly Hong Kong, Singapore, Thailand, and spent much of my life traveling the world thereafter. I actually bred and hybridized poison dart frogs, and each one of those could kill about 50 people. And I think I was the only person at the time in the world to actually hybridize these two species. And I donated all my frogs and that to Edinburgh Zoo many years ago now. But yeah, so that was quite a strange thing about me. I'm a bit of a geek inside. And a third fact, that's a tough one. A third fact, I love food and I've eaten just about everything. And probably one of the most disgusting things there was called grass cutter, which is, I had it in Ghana. It's a giant rat and it's a delicacy. I've had it. Please don't do it.
What did that taste like?
It tasted like rat, I'd imagine. It was like a tough, sinewy, not a very nice meat. Yeah. So I've eaten nearly everything you can imagine, but yeah, that's not good.
You were saying earlier that you could do like a food review blog type thing, couldn't you?
I'd quite like to do that. I'm a big foodie, and I spend right across the piece, and I'm really appreciative of great food, and I get quite frustrated when someone charges you good money for not so good food. So yeah, I've been quite tempted to do a blog on it, and just for fun more than anything. But
get a free meal out of it.
Yeah, if a free meal. If anyone give us a shout. Yeah.
What's some of the best places in Glasgow?
Glasgow's, without calling some out there particularly, there's some amazing Japanese places in Glasgow in a minute. Nuku's good. That was right around the corner from us, but there's some really, really nice ones here. River Hill is a great place for a cake and a coffee. And there's just new ones coming up every day. Even some of the chain kind of stuff, Revolution to Cuba and that they do, it's great for some food and drinks. So yeah, Glasgow's a great food scene. I would probably say my favorite steak restaurant is in Finniston called Porter and Rye. And blow you away kind of steak, nice aged steak, and it's just done perfect every time.
I have to try it, yeah. And then you said you grew up in Southeast Asia, did you? What was that like?
Very different to the UK, and it's quite odd as well because you're out there. Obviously, I went to sort of British schools and stuff, but there was a lot of Gurkhas at the schools, a lot of Australians, a lot of New Zealanders and such, like few Americans. So the schools were different, but we very much mixed in with the culture. I think it made me more tolerant of lots of people. I am very multicultural in my outlook and my diet, and it's much later in life. I think it helped me when I was traveling with business, because if you get off the plane in China you've got to be a different Billy than if you get off the train in America or get off the plane in India. In the Middle East, you have to think about, you can't try and do business. You need to go and meet the family of the family. In China, people can't lose face. In the Middle East, you can't show the soles of your feet. I'm not a big tea and coffee drinker, but you have to accept drinks when they're offered. In America, it's very bish bash bosh, do business, get on and do it. So every culture is different. And I used to pride myself on being a different Billy every time I got off the plane in a different country, which could be 4 or 5 countries in a week sometimes. But I think my background growing up in Southeast Asia, in very multicultural environments, helped with that. And it helped me to understand people differently.
Yeah, sounds like it did. What did you enjoy doing when you were growing up then? Any hobbies, interests? Did you enjoy school, academics, extracurricular stuff? Or
it's quite interesting. I wouldn't say it's quite. I love school. I love studying, but I like studying what I wanted to study. So I'll be very honest. When I left school, I left with, so many O levels and stuff like that. But I didn't really progress from then. I wanted to. Later in life, I did a degree and 2 master's degrees on my own time. So I've got a science degree, an engineering master's, and I've got a master's in management. But I love to study. I just didn't like the prescriptive way in which teachers were making you do subjects you didn't want to do. But I love the great outdoors. I love natural history. So particularly in that part of the world now, there's so much to see. There still is. I still travel a lot just to see different things. I very rarely go to the same place twice because there's still so much to see in the world.
Yeah. I think I'm comfortable going back to the same place. I'll just go back to the same places over and over again. I really want to go to Southeast Asia, like Bali and stuff. I think that's next on my list I really want to go to.
People overplan it, and I've spoken to a lot of people that do the 6-month trips out there, and they really overplan it and they overpay. Because if you get to Singapore or you get to Vietnam, you can plan so simple from there. It's almost getting a plane from Singapore to Bangkok or to Kuala Lumpur. It's like getting a bus. They run every 15 minutes, so you have to get there 15 minutes beforehand, and you just walk on with a bag. You can just go, for a few days. It's cheap. The food's cheap. You can eat like a king there for cheap. But a lot of people do the British backpack kind of way of going. I would just go and immerse yourself with families out there.
Sure, not tough.
I always say 2 out of 3 people in the world are fantastic. You know what I mean? So you'll nearly always meet those 2 out of 3, and life's good that way.
We were saying earlier about me and Yoli, but didn't decide who was the third person.
Yes, yeah. Well, Yoni's not here at the minute, so it must be him.
So then, when you were growing up, what did you want to do, or what did you want to be? Was there any aspirations, any dream jobs? What you wanted to be when you were growing up?
It's really strange. I love animals. As I said before, I've kind of bred frogs and weird animals. I always wanted to be a vet. And when I was at school, people said, people like you don't become vets and stuff like that. So you kind of went along with that. And I joined the Navy as a vet because I came from Portsmouth, and people in Portsmouth didn't join the Navy. So it was a bet that you go to the careers office and you didn't get jumped or something when you came out. I did get jumped a few times later on in my life because I was in the Navy, certain towns and places. People don't like it, but yeah, it was a bet to join. So that was, just went out and did something differently. Got into engineering. Before I joined the Navy, I actually worked on a market stall, and I used to work on sort of the South Coast, particularly in London and such like that. It was really strange to go full cycle many, many years later, although yes, watches isn't a market stall and stuff, but to go from a sales role to do engineering and service and business development roles all around the world to end up selling stuff again is quite a strange loop.
That's interesting. So what, you got better at school, but you couldn't get jobs in the Navy, or how did it work? No, I had a bet in a pub that I wouldn't go to the careers office. So I joined up at 18. So I was in a pub playing pool for money one day, and it was a pub called Martha's in Portsmouth, which was, it was, I wouldn't say rough, but it was, and someone bet me a game of pool I wouldn't go to the careers office and sign up. Because you used to, it wasn't sort of the done thing or whatever. But so we did it all, and then a few months later they come back and said, "Yeah, you passed all your tests. Would you like to join up?" And then as a mechanical engineer, or I said, "Let's give it a shot. Let's give it a go." What was the feeling like at that time? Because I imagine that was like overwhelming, or was it a big step in your life?
I've never seen anything really as a big step. You just go and do it, So it was quite funny. I never had any problems. That a couple of years later, I missed it when you said interesting facts. Actually, I've met the Queen twice. I've met Prince William and I've met Prince Philip twice. I've met Princess Anne 3 times. And so I've met a lot of the royal family. But when I'd been in the Navy about 2 years, I did what they call a Royal Guard, and we marched through Portsmouth to see the Queen at the Guildhall. And actually the way people were then about the Navy in Portsmouth, that people spat at us on the way. So I was from Portsmouth, and then people from Portsmouth were spitting at us on the way to. So, I never had any troubles when I joined up, but you kind of got that so those sort of things happen. But this made me stronger, to be honest. You just think, well,
resilient.
So I met the Queen then, and then I met her probably 25 years later at Buckingham Palace, when the company I was working for, we just won a Queen's Award. So we went to the palace and met her and Prince Philip again.
What was the Navy like then? What you expected, or different, or the same?
I was on Submarines, so it's quite a small part of the Navy, but it operates very differently. There's no passengers on a submarine. Everybody has to be able to do their job, and everyone has to learn everyone else's job. So if you go on there as an engineer type, I've got to understand what the sailors do, what the marine engineers do, what their radio operators do. You have to know everyone's job in case you're stuck in a place where you need to do it. So there's a lot of camaraderie there. It's a lot of memories that you build with people, and you really have to have trust with those around you and such like. So it's a great atmosphere. My time had come. I did over my career, so my time had come to leave. But some people struggle to leave, but it went quite well.
I just think some people struggle to leave.
Some people get institutionalized. I did 20 odd years, so some people. Lots of things are tough in the military, that you have to, I think people grow up quicker, you become a leader quicker, and you have to make decisions and lots of things quicker. But at the same time, someone's sorting you out 3 meals every day. Someone's making sure there's accommodation for you. And so in lots of ways you grew up quicker and you're stronger, but in other ways you're looked after. Yeah. So when some people leave, particularly if they've never owned their own house and stuff, because some people will stay in naval housing all their life. I had a friend who left after 22 years. He didn't even own a chest of drawers, So, he had to do what a young 20-year-old would have to do. And he was leaving the Navy,
That's great.
Some people are much more organised than that. But yeah, so there's a lot of, I think there's a big problem in the UK with veterans of, you see prison populations, homeless populations, a lot of veterans. And particularly, it doesn't really matter what you did. It depends on where you were, we're involved in people get involved in wars and stuff like that as well. You have trauma. Some of those people just can't come and mix in with everyday society. You've seen and done different things. So yeah, I do. I've done a little bit of work, and I'd like to do a little bit more with helping some of those people get back on track, because it's a high percentage of homeless, high percentage of prison, high percentage of suicides are ex-military. So
isn't it?
And they've served their country.
I was going to say, they serve the country and then they're not looked after after they leave, isn't it? It's a bit crazy.
It's a tough one. It's one I've been wanting to do more with, but I'll be really honest. You also have to, I've got to the 2 businesses, and you've got to look after and feed your own and pay the mortgage. Yeah. But I'd like to be able to do a little bit and give something back. And I'm not quite sure what that is yet. I've done charity occasions and helped out, but I think some point I'd like to do a bit more.
Yeah, that'd be cool. Yeah. Then what was it like leading then for you? Did you have anything in the pipeline? Anything you're planning next?
I'd kind of planned to leave for 5 years, and it was quite strange. It went from about 5 or 6 years before I left. It went from a career to a job, because I just changed my mindset. I think when you shift anything, even when I set out and started selling watches on my own, almost overnight, I just changed my mindset. So you have to change your mindset. This is it. It didn't become the be all and end all then. It was a job I had. So when I left, I was actually looking to be a consultant, and I was quite lucky I applied for a role in a West of Scotland company, a global company, and progressed very well with them for 4 or 5 years, and ended up looking after dozens of countries and, lots and lots of people across the palm. So they were very good to give that opportunity, and I think probably rewarded them back with, delivering high growth. I think we grew about 400% in that time.
Really? That's crazy, isn't it?
But yeah, I was quite lucky with that. And then I had a couple of roles after that with another global company and then another West of Scotland company. Actually. So,
how did you find the transition? Did you just take it in your stride, like you said? Did 18 when you went into the Navy, or was it change of pace, or how did you find it? A bit more into reality, would you say?
It's very different, because a lot of people think the forces don't operate like a business. They do. It's just you don't have to make money. You still have operations, you still have quality assurance, you still have service, you still have, you just don't buy and sell something. So a lot of things transfer really, really well. But I, as a personal one, I left. I put everything from the Navy, all my uniforms in 4 bags. I took 3 of them up to the local dump, and I gave 1 to a friend because it was the best gear. And all I kept was my medals. That was my way of just breaking loose and letting go. And a lot of people keep their uniform for years and their berries. And for me, I had a new job and I went in.
That chapter closed kind of thing.
The big difference was in Civvy Street is there's no handover. When you go and do a job, they say, do your job. In the Navy, in the Army and stuff, people they call it double bank for a month to 3 months. Someone to show you the ropes of every job because you move every 3 years. Civvy Street, it's like, well, it's your job. You do it. We've hired you because you can do it. You have to earn money immediately. And when you're working for yourself, it's the exact same. So yeah, if you're not motivated to get on, they're the people that are struggle when they come out.
Yeah, I suppose that's the difficult thing for people to be actually motivated to progress with a new career and that kind of thing. But it sounds like you took is it the phrase a duck to water?
A duck to water, yeah. It went. I've had a great career post the Navy. Obviously, I had a good career in the Navy, but a great career post the Navy, and that was purely because I just wanted to. I'd made money for other people, done lots of things for other people. I just fancied having a go on my own. It's it takes time. I think it's really starting to come together this year, 2024.
Yeah. And then how did the watches come about this?
The watches was a strange one because I had made the decision that I wanted to leave the company I was in, and actually I had a massive respect for the company owner. So it was a tough one to want to leave it. But one day I just decided, I'm going to do my own thing. And I wanted to set up a consultancy business, but I'd never been in business before. And I had a passion for collecting watches. In my head then I thought, well, there's a lot going on with watches. Why don't I set up a hobby business of watches? I'll learn how to set up a business, open a bank account, how VAT works and all, for your own self. And then once I've learned that, I'll build the consultancy business quicker. But the watch business started and it grew and it grew and it grew and it grew. So I do a bit of consultancy still, probably 4 or 5 days a month, but majority of the time it's watches because that's the big beast. It started off as a hobby. So it's almost like, way back when you sort of, went to the careers office for the Navy as a bet, but yeah, I think you just have to pivot. My wife didn't know I was leaving my company. I went home one day and said, I'll put my notice in. She was quite shocked. I said, well, I think if you wake up, I did it when I left the Navy. I did it when I left the corporate world. You wake up one day and think, I've got to change something. Just do it.
What was the first watch you sold then? For people that don't know.
First watch I sold was my own watch off my wrist. It wasn't planned to be that way. I had a Seamaster 300 that I'd bought when I got a promotion in the Navy many years ago. And I was trying to sell a Tudor to someone. Actually, I lie. It probably wasn't the first watch I sold. It's probably the first one I remember selling. Yeah. So no, because I'll talk about it because I think you had mentioned regrets on something else as well. So the guy wanted a Tudor. He was in talking to me and he said, I like the one you've got on your wrists. I said, well, I'll make me an offer. So I sold that one. So yeah, I sold the watch I'd had for 20 years or something, but it was immaculate. I had it serviced all the time. So I sold that one that day instead. Then that's when actually I don't own a watch particularly. Now I wear different ones that are worn watches, but everything's for sale. I don't think you can be a watch selling business and not sell watches. I know a lot of people do, but for me, if you want to buy it, I can get it for you.
Oh, that's cool. And how's the industry, the watch world, progressed over time when you first got into it to now? Because it's been a number of years, isn't it? And you've obviously gone through the hype and then things kind of stabilised and people have came, people have gone and that kind of thing. I bet you've seen quite a bit over the last.
Yes, it's very interesting, and I sell all different brands. So I've sold nearly 1,000 watches, or maybe just over 1,000. I lose count. But we sell all sorts, and it depends. The best bit is meeting people, but the big problem we had in the middle, the hard bit for me, is that hype in the middle. Watches came along. If you look at watches over 20 years, they've done that, so they've increased. But in the middle, we had this big height and this big dip, and then come back onto track again. So anybody that did a deal in these big peaks, they're really tough customers to deal with, because their expectations are very differently. Even harder is if they bought off me in the big peak, and then they come back to me, and I can't give them anywhere near that now. But that's, to be honest, if you bought, a lot of people bought them for, I hate the term, but we got them for enjoyment investments. So it's like stocks and shares. You've got to take the ups and downs. Still over 20 years, Rolex has outperformed the stock exchange. So yeah, it's a tough one. But the industry itself, the vast majority of people in it are really good. There are some people starting out that don't understand, and I wouldn't say there's anyone bad in the industry. There's some people that just don't run it properly as a business. And I think that's probably why. It's probably partly my age, partly my experience, that it's a pure business model. It's not try and make a few bucks quick, It's bread today, jam tomorrow. I don't know if that's the saying or not, but something like that. Yeah, so it's kind of, I want to have customers for the journey.
Building a relationship, isn't it?
Yeah.
You must have learned quite a lot though from setting up the business to now as well, gaining a lot of experience over the years.
Yeah, I have, and so it's actually interesting. There's some people that I work with now and stuff that have helped me with having your own business. I've probably helped them with learning, certain watches and other things. But there's a lot to learn. There is a lot to learn. So if you can get someone you can bounce ideas from, that helps. It helps massively. For me, the biggest problem is always cash flow. And I think it's watches particularly. There's big chunky bits. So unless your pockets are really deep, cash flow's tough. But yeah, you learn an awful lot. And so I've obviously got the consultancy business, and I've got another little business starting in the background as well. So someone told me recently 4 revenue streams is what you need. So heading towards that way.
Yeah, that's good. 4 revenue streams. I'm quite a long way off that, to be fair, but maybe in the future. But so what are some popular watches at the moment, would you say, with people? Because obviously I see quite a few and see what you're selling and that kind of thing. But the people that are watching may be thinking, what kind of watches do you sell? What kind of popular? What's kind of trending at the moment? Yeah,
I think I have probably three, and I always get slagged off for saying free because I say it as in free me. Yeah. But that's the slight bit of southern accent. I think there's 3 types of customer. You've got the customer that wants the high-end, trendy fashion watch, probably a Rolex, maybe a Cartier, and they might stretch out to a Patek or an AP or might dip into the Tudor Omega world. They're there. Then you've got the people that are they like a watch for what it is. That mostly that's IWC, Omega, Tudor. They really want a speedy. It was the Moon watch. It's a chronograph, or they really want a certain IWC, or they really understand that watch. And I think you've got to know your watches. You've got to know what the META certification is. They want to know, is it losing 2 seconds a day or not? Most people that buy a Rolex don't really care. So you have all that. And then you've got the big part of it, which is vintage. People like old watches. So the fact that we go across the piece and we do all of those, I've got a 1968 Omega in there. I've got a 1970 Rolex in there. We've got, a brand new Batgirl in, and then, loads of bits in the middle. I think it's just understanding what the client wants when they come in, and try not to, I don't try to bamboozle people. If someone says, I'm interested in a watch, you will say, what is it you want? And you show them 1 or 2, rather than get out trays and go, and try and upsell them. I don't upsell anybody. If someone says, I want an Omega Seamaster, that's what I'll offer them. And I think that works, it works very well for us. Maybe we should, but I just never do an upsell.
Yeah, but I feel like if you're too pushy, that'll put people off, really.
I've lost a few sales as well with people when I say think about it overnight, rather than jumping on it. But then in my head, I don't think I've lost them, because if they jumped on it straight away and then they had doubts the next day, then we've got a sale that hasn't worked or something. So, sometimes I say to people, just think about it, come back to me, and maybe they think too much and they lose, don't get it. But I'd rather that, to be honest. But
even itself out over time, won't it? I feel like, because if you're pushy and then you say, and then you have problems, and that's more of an issue than if you say, think about it overnight, if you don't go for it. But then if you're more chilled out and relaxed, and that's the kind of people you're attracted, I imagine. I think my sales skills are terrible because I'm too chilled out and relaxed, but it's just the way I am. I hate to be pushy because I don't like to be sold in a pushy way at the same time. That makes sense. So
it's sales. I think sometimes you do have to push or remind or whatever you want. So it's even like when you do a follow-up, I try and do 2 follow-ups and then I leave it. So you kind of have to just hit the way there.
Just press it one more time. I'll just finish quickly because I know it's 20. Yeah, cool. Right, next section, we're going to do greatest strength and greatest weakness. What do you think they are? Put you on the spot.
Greatest strength, I think tenacity.
Yeah. Why do you think that? I'm not challenging you, I was asking you out of interest.
Because I don't see I see a challenge as a challenge. I don't see it as a hurdle, and I actually quite welcome it. I think there's a confidence about most things. I always look at it and go, well, it can't be that hard because other people have done it. And so I would say a bit of tenacity, a bit of confidence, and most of the time, not all the time, I'm empathetic to people.
That's a big one, I think. A lot of people aren't, do they?
I'm not, and I would say that I'm not great at it because, when you're tired or you're fed up or something, sometimes it's not the best. But generally, I try and understand what, especially if there's a debate, why people are thinking that, that I try and do that. My weaknesses are
strengths. I was going to say, because I liked it when you said that, when I said to you, was it going in the Navy, was that like a big step, a bit overwhelming? And you said, I took it in my stride. Because I would have thought if I was 18 going to that, I'd been like, what the fuck, this is a massive change for me. But if
I just got in the car and went to Plymouth.
Yeah.
I don't know.
It's what it is, isn't it?
Yeah. My dad says, should we come with you? I says, no need.
I'll see you.
I did. I saw him a year later. Because actually, even when I finished, they were going to come to pass it out. So there's no need. I don't want to do it. I didn't know what it was at the time. But
where do you think you get the empathetic side from?
I think experience. Yeah, I don't think I was when I was young.
No.
And to be honest, it's a military thing as well, that even when you were young, you probably verged on bullying. Yeah. Well, I probably was a bully to some people. And some people were probably a bully to me. The military used to, it was very much like that. But I think one day I sort of well, what does that get you? So when I got my first promotion and other promotions, everyone used to call you, you get called leading hand or PO or chief pay officer or all these things. I said, just call me Billy. But I did that. I don't know how I got away with it because a lot of the senior guys didn't like it, but I always said to senior officers, just call me Billy. I said, I'll call you boss. And they always wanted to get called sir. And I said, look, boss, just call me Billy. Really? And I did 26 years and everyone just did the same. I was just always that way. Some of my best friends now are Commodores and stuff, but they're like second from the top, but they all just call me Billy. That's cool. I don't know how I got away with it. When you were younger, it was tough. People would say, look, it's not how it works. And as you proved yourself more, people kind of got through it. Yeah.
And weakness, what do you reckon your weakness is?
Talking too much.
I think. Why is that a weakness?
I think it is. Okay, take it around. Not listening enough. That's probably that's my weakness. Not listening enough.
Talking too much but not listening.
And I try and fix everything.
Okay. Well, I like that watch.
No, as in if someone to come out and go, oh, I've got a problem with this, or I've got my house isn't where I've got. Well, if you can't touch, I want to fix everyone's problems. Whereas a lot of the time people just want to tell you them. They don't want your advice, and particularly women, it's tough. Women are. The women in my life, they almost go that. I said, well, yeah, I'll sort it out. I never asked you to sort it out. Yeah. They just want to tell you. But I'm a fixer. I'm like, I can put it right.
So I've only got a girlfriend recently, and sometimes she does just want to not explain. Just
get it off their chest.
Yeah, it's like, I don't want a solution. I'm like, okay.
I used to be like, what are you telling me for?
I'm like that. I'm like, why are you telling me you don't want a solution? Or if I give them a solution, she's like, oh, no, just leave it. I'm like, well, I don't get it personally, but that's just women in general. But and then why do you think not listening is a weakness for you? / talking too much.
I think there's a huge strength in listening, and I'm cognizant of that, and I'm quite good. I'm not very good, and I'm only quite good from where years ago I was not so good. So you're improving all the time, but I do think the more you can listen, the more you can understand what's going on, and you don't have to be saying stuff. I don't tend to say stuff to try and control the room. I try and say stuff to fix problems. So I need to put those two together and try not to be the fixer unless it's needed, or let it all come out and then try and fix it. It's very hard in the fact I've got a consultancy business where people get me in and want me to fix stuff.
Just taking yourself out of that situation, other situations, isn't it? Yeah.
But this last company, they're a French company, so you have to listen even more because there's a language barrier.
Difficult. And then any regrets?
No, I haven't got a regret in the world. No. I've always just been.
Any mistakes you think you've made?
You've done what you've done. Mistakes is I've made a few mistakes in businesses, and it's dealing with people or saying the wrong thing at the wrong time. But then it was probably needed to be said, So I'd look at them and go, "Oh, there was a mistake." I moved jobs because of something, but actually, if I'd said it, it needed said. So, and to have any regrets. I think life's too short for regrets. You have to look on. There's always a page to turn and get a new chapter. So you just keep driving forward, and to be honest, you live in the UK. Even if you've made all the wrong decisions, you're not going to be destitute. So
yeah, it'll be all right. So then, if anybody's looking for a watch, where can people find you, follow you, get in contact, plug everything on the podcast?
So thanks to you, we're everywhere. We're on Insta, TikTok, YouTube, and Facebook. Hora Watching.
Follow us flying up.
Follow us, like us. We're on. Obviously, we have our website, and you can look us up on Google reviews. I think we're 85 or something now. I wish it was a lot more, but most people don't go and do it. But yeah, check us out, come and see us, and we can get what you need.
Yeah. Any closing thoughts? Anything else you want to finish on the podcast?
I wish the sun would come out, and I think that 2024 is going to be a good year for the whole of the UK. Interest rates are down, inflation's down. Once we can get rid of some of these, fractious bits going on across the UK, I think it's going to come strong this year.
Yeah, positive
outlook.
Right, Billy, thank you very much.
Cool.
If you're listening if you're watching on YouTube, make sure to subscribe, like the video, comment your favourite part. If you're listening on Spotify, Apple, make sure to follow the podcast and leave a 5-star review. And we'll see you next time. Bye.